Welcome back, folks, to another edition of #SGSM, the weekly Monday mailbag video where I answer your questions from Facebook and Twitter right here in this video form. I hope you had a very happy Easter. I'm currently wearing the WWE Universe that I got for Easter about 5 years ago. I got it, and of course, I'm not in my usual setting. I am home for the holidays. I will be going back to school today on this Monday, so I am not in my usual setting in my dorm. But when I was home, though, I found this hat, so I decided to wear it for the video. And, of course, my Ultimate Warrior shirt, which I've been wearing all weekend long. I wore it Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, and I'll be wearing it today for this video as well. So, that being said, though, we have a lot of great questions this week for this week's #AskGSM video. Probably the best set of questions I've ever gotten. That's saying a lot, but we've got a lot of awesome questions, and we'll kick it off with Andre G. His question is, from Facebook, of course, who do you think would have been world champion first, John Morrison or Shelton Benjamin? Very good question. John Morrison, I think, neither of them had the mic skills to become world champion. But, first of all, if they're going to win any world title, not counting the ECW title, I count that as a world title, but if we're talking WWE and World Heavyweight, both of them would have won the World Heavyweight Championship. I think John Morrison was closer to becoming world champion than Shelton Benjamin, if only because when Shelton Benjamin first went to Raw, I think it was 2004, he beat Triple H a number of times, but he never contended for the world title, did he? I mean, I could be wrong here, but I don't think he was ever really in contention for the world title. I know he faced a lot of big names, but he was always like a mid-card guy. He was like the Kofi Kingston. I think Kofi Kingston has gotten more world title shots than Shelton Benjamin ever did, but regardless, Kofi Kingston is a mid-card guy for life. I think we can all say that. I like Kofi, but he's a mid-card guy for life at this point. And he's faced top stars. He's beaten Randy Orton. He beat him clean a couple months ago when he was a WWE World Heavyweight Champion. But he's never really been in the title scene. You know what I mean? Shelton Benjamin was always really the same way. John Morrison was kind of the same way too. But John Morrison, over on SmackDown, if you can recall, over in the year 2009, he faced Jeff Hardy for the world title at one point. He faced CM Punk at one point for the world title, I think. He was in a few Elimination Chambers. So he's contended for the world title, or been in contention for the world title against Miz at one time on Monday Night Raw. He's been in contention for a world title more often than not. So I think out of the two of them, John Morrison would have been the world champion first. His second question was, do you think Bobby Lashley would have been more successful had he stayed in the WWE? So I think the situation with Lashley was that he faced John Cena for the WWE Championship at the Great American Bash pay-per-view in 2007, and then he got injured, maybe not the next night, maybe like 8 days later or something like that. Like a week later, he got a nasty injury, like a leg or a shoulder injury, I think it was, and then was out for 6 months, and then got released from his contract in February of 2008. So I don't really know if it was his decision to leave. I think he just got released. I'm not really exactly sure. But had he not gotten injured and had he not gotten released, I think he would have been more successful in WWE, definitely. I'm a fan of Lashley. I'm glad he's in TNA at the moment, but he was in TNA about 5 years ago or so, in 2009 to 2010, and they did nothing with him. He did nothing. And I know he was working an MMA schedule at the time, but and I don't know if he's doing that. I don't know if he's still doing that now. But they never did anything with him. And since he showed up at Lockdown a month ago, he had this big return. The crowd was hot for him. I know he's not the best wrestler or the best talker in the world, but I mean, you could do more to utilize him than just, he's shown up maybe once or twice on Impact in the last month and a half. So I don't know what they're doing with Lashley or why they bothered to bring him in if they're not even going to use him. And he left TNA the first time around because they weren't doing anything with him. So I don't know if they'll do the same thing this time around too, but even still, I think had he not gotten injured, I don't know if he would have become a world champion, because I know Vince McMahon was very high on him, so he might have become a world champion over time, maybe over on the SmackDown brand. So yeah, I definitely think he would have had more success in WWE had he not gotten released. Jared J. from Facebook, his question was, who would you rank as the better head of talent relations, Jim Ross during the Attitude Era or Triple H currently? John Laurinaitis is not an acceptable answer. Great last comment there, but I definitely agree. Between Triple H and Jim Ross, it's really hard to say, if only because Triple H is still going. You know what I mean? His tenure hasn't ended. He's still, like you said, currently in the role. But let me just say this, though. Triple H, personally, I don't care for him as a wrestler. I don't hate him as a wrestler, but he's not one of my favorites. I'll say that much. But as a businessman, I think he's fantastic in the role. I noted this on Twitter not too long ago, but if Triple H wasn't a part of the company, like one of the head officials alongside Vince McMahon and Stephanie and whatever else, or whoever else, we would not have gotten Bruno back in WWE. I don't know about Bret Hart, but definitely Ultimate Warrior. Ultimate Warrior would not have been back in WWE's grasp had it not been for Triple H. And he brought back Bruno, too. He got in good terms with him. He's incorporated NXT, the Performance Center, so much great stuff on the business side of things that Triple H has done since he kind of took over the role, I think around 2010, 2011. So I think a lot of people you got to cut him some slack. A lot of people give him flack for, him as a wrestler and burying people and this and that. And some claims are correct and they're accurate. But from a business standpoint, this guy has been phenomenal. And no pun intended, but he's been best for business. So, but I mean, better head of talent relations. Let's look at this real quick. Better head of talent relations. Jim Ross signed the likes of Lita, Jericho, and like you said, during the Attitude Era, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Jim Ross signed a number of top names in the WWE. Triple H has as well, but you go back to a few years ago when he first signed Mystico, Sin Cara. That was a fucking box. That guy boxed within the first year of his arrival in the WWE, not even. He was a failure. He's gone. Awesome Kong, I loved Awesome Kong, but she got pregnant and got fired the next year. So, I mean, I'm not saying he's a failure as the head of talent relations, but he's definitely not as good as Jim Ross. So I would have to go with Jim Ross. And who knows? I mean, by the time, in a couple years from now, maybe I'll be saying Triple H, given all the people that he's signed. But I would have to go with Jim Ross in this scenario. His second question was, do you ever see Edge, Steve Austin, or Shawn Michaels having a consistent role on WWE television again? Edge, no. If only because he retired 3 years ago in April of 2011. And he's been doing Haven. He's been doing a lot of other movie projects. He's happy being away from wrestling. He only shows up in the WWE maybe once or twice a year for when they go to Canada. But aside from that, he's never on television, and he would never really want an on. He got away from it, if only because of his neck problems, because of the why he retired in the first place, of course. So I don't see him going back in the WWE and on a regular basis. He would not be able to travel, be able to keep up the rigorous travel schedule. So I don't see him back in WWE on a regular basis, only for one-off appearances. Stone Cold, he also is doing a lot of other projects on the side. The podcast, which is phenomenal. Check it out if you have a moment. If you can, definitely check it out. It's awesome. He's filming other shows as well. The Broken Skull Challenge. A number of other things too. So Steve Austin is a no. I know he did the whole Sheriff of Raw thing a decade ago, but that was 10 years ago when he was still fresh off of retiring, and he didn't really have much to do at the time in terms of branching outside of the wrestling world. So Steve Austin, no. Shawn Michaels is kind of in the same boat, but not really. He does the Macmillian show or whatever it is. I forgot what the name of it is. The hunting show. So he does that, but he does show up on Raw from time to time. He does a lot of, like he did the angle with Lesnar when Triple H was feuding with him. He showed up last year at WrestleMania. He showed up for the Daniel Bryan angle. So, I would think so. Out of those three, Shawn Michaels would be the most likely to come back on a regular basis, but he's happy being away from wrestling, so I don't see him coming back either for a full-time basis as like GM or something. So no to all of those guys, though I would love to see him back, though. At JJF Tweets asks, what are your thoughts on ROH joining PPV TV? Will they surpass TNA? So first of all, I'm not a big, avid ROH fan. I've never watched ROH before, and I got another question about this, so I'll talk about this later on in the video. But it's great. It is absolutely fantastic, especially with WWE swaying, kind of going away from the pay-per-view route now that they have the network and all their pay-per-views being on the network. I think it's great that ROH is taking this opportunity, thinking, okay, so we're going to have the pay-per-view, not all to ourselves, because there's still TNA, of course, for now. Just kidding. But, yeah, I think it's great that they're going to pay-per-view. Will they surpass TNA, though? I don't want to say yes to that, if only because people say TNA should go out of business. I'm not saying it won't go out of business, but I don't think it should go out of business because you have all these very talented guys that would be out of work. Bobby Roode, James Storm, Austin Aries. And I highly doubt WWE would sign 90% of them, to be quite honest with you. If only because they have their performance center now. They're building talent up from the ground up. So they have no use for talented guys like Austin Aries or Bobby Roode. I think they would flourish in WWE. I mean, that's arguable. That's debatable. But, I mean, depending on how WWE would utilize them. But even still, though, I don't think TNA or WWE would sign any of them. So I don't think they should go out of business. But that's kind of swaying away from the question at hand. I don't think they'll surpass TNA if they go to pay-per-view or now that they are on pay-per-view. If TNA goes out of business, which I don't think they will because they got the whole fucking Panda Energy thing backing them up from a financial standpoint, I don't think they will go out of business anytime soon. But no, I don't think they'll surpass TNA. But the move to pay-per-view is fantastic for ROH. And here's hoping they can continue to garner as much success in the future. His second question was, should Sting compete in the WWE next year? Who would then take the title of the greatest wrestler to never compete in the WWE? That's a very, very, very good question, if only because I was just thinking about this the other day. Great minds think alike. So my answer to that would be, I don't know, I was throwing around a lot of names. All time, I would have to go maybe, if you're thinking about like in the last, since the start of wrestling, Lou Thesz and Frank Gotch, I don't think ever wrestled for the WWE or WWF, WWF, whatever. So I think those are some of the greatest names in wrestling history. Not sports entertainment history, but professional wrestling history. So those two would have to be at the top of my list. The Great Muta, of course, I don't think has ever wrestled in the WWE, so he would definitely be at the top of my list for greatest wrestlers to never wrestle in the company. So a Great Muta would have to be at the top of that list. But if you're saying currently, AJ Styles, I know, wrestled for WWE at one point. Samoa Joe, not like a full-on stint, but they competed in the WWE at one point. Samoa Joe did, I know Bobby Roode did, and AJ Styles, so they would be off my list. And Great Muta, I don't know if you can really call him current, because I know he still wrestles, of course. He wrestled at the TNA Lockdown pay-per-view about a month ago. So if we're talking all-time, then probably Great Muta. But currently, greatest wrestler to not wrestle in the WWE, I don't know, James Storm, not James Storm. He's really good, but I would love to see him in WWE. Maybe Austin Aries. I think he's a phenomenal asset to TNA for one thing. He's highly underutilized. They had him drop the title to Jeff Hardy a couple years ago, which I was fine with, but they haven't done anything with him since. He had a funny tag team with Bobby Roode going, and a very entertaining tag team, but they haven't done anything with him in the last year or so. So now these fucking pointless face and heel turns isn't helping him either. So that being said, though, yeah, I think Austin Aries currently would be the best wrestler to not compete in the WWE, but all time, probably the Great Muta. At 316 Gibby, his question was, what do you think of the announcement of Global Force Wrestling? Of course, this is from Jeff Jarrett a couple weeks ago. This was expected from the moment that Jeff Jarrett left TNA, because of course there are rumors of Toby Keith buying TNA about in October, I think it was, but and Jeff Jarrett couldn't get full control of the company. But the fact that he's starting up his own wrestling organization doesn't really surprise me, if only because he left TNA. There were rumors and there was some buzz around him starting up his own wrestling company. But what do I think of it? I think it's good. I mean, more competition, the better, I guess. Do I think it will ever be on the level of WWE? Probably not, to be quite honest with you. Maybe on the level of ROH or something. I mean, I can't really tell. I mean, I hate to say that it will never beat out the WWE, because never say never. But I was thinking about this a week ago, but how much talent can they really have? All the best talents in the wrestling world today are already in WWE, TNA, ROH. I mean, there's AJ Styles, I guess, and not Sting, but I don't know. Styles, I think, is the biggest free agent on the market right now in professional wrestling. So maybe they could sign him, but how many people can you really sign? I mean, ROH, I don't think they would steal talents from ROH, and if they would, even then I don't think they'd be a viable threat to TNA or WWE. Maybe TNA, I don't know, but I think it's good. I just don't know if it will succeed. Jeff Jarrett, he was saying in an interview, and this is what confused me the most, this was mind-boggling, but he was saying, we're going to bring back the most interactive fan base, we're going to have such interaction between the fans and the wrestlers, we're going to bring back this boom period in wrestling for the first time since the mid-'80s and the late '90s. He's thinking like he's going to start this revolution for the first time since the Attitude Era and the Hulkamania era. But then why didn't you do that with TNA? You know what I mean? You founded TNA. You couldn't cut it with TNA. And TNA will never beat out WWE. Never say never, but I mean, let's honestly say here, TNA will never buy out or ever compete on the level of WWE. And I'm not just saying that as a WWE fan. I just honest to God, I don't think they will ever come close to beating the conglomerate that is the WWE, the media conglomerate. But if you couldn't cut it with TNA and becoming this new boom period in wrestling, then why should I believe that he'll do the same thing with his organization? You know what I mean? It doesn't make much sense to me, because if he didn't find success with TNA, and he did find success, but he was hoping that it'd become the next big thing, the new alternative to WWE, and it is to an extent, but most of the time, I mean, it's a lot of the same shit between the two companies, which annoys me, and that's a whole other rant for a whole other day. But I don't know, that's what bothers me the most about this. If he couldn't do it with TNA, why would he do it? Why should I think that he'll be able to do it with this new company, Global Force Wrestling? But, kudos to him. If he finds success, that's great for him. If they get a TV deal or something, I guess I'll check it out at some point. But aside from that, I don't think it will be any major threat to any of the major companies. At IOYodio, his question was, who's the sexiest diva in the WWE? Of course, just my opinion here. But currently, all time, I would have to go with Maurice. I've said this in past videos, but Maurice is my favorite, hottest diva of all time, in my opinion. Of course, people are going to say Trish. Maybe if I grew up in that era, I would say that. But for me, it's Maurice. But sexiest diva in the WWE today, I don't know. I would either have to go with Layla's in the third place, I would think. It's either Layla, AJ, or Paige. AJ or Paige are up there. I don't know. Between AJ and Paige, they're just both so perfect. I guess I'd go with Paige. I don't know. AJ is really, really, really close. And if it's not AJ, it's Paige. Damn it. I don't know. That's such a good question. I guess Paige. I'll go with Paige. I don't know. Flip a coin either way. I'd be happy. Wouldn't complain if I got either of them, to be quite honest with you. Any of the divas in the WWE, I wouldn't complain if I got any of them. But, yeah, I guess I'd go with Paige. At Cody Collier 12, his question was, do you think WWE should move Payback to April and Extreme Rules to June next year? Great observation and a great idea. Definitely. Payback could be the new Backlash. Why they ever got rid of that pay-per-view to begin with is beyond me. Backlash was awesome. That was an awesome event. Extreme Rules is awesome too, don't get me wrong. Payback was awesome last year. Whether history repeats itself would be great too. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, Payback could be like the new or it could be the new Backlash. Right after WrestleMania, it would make the most sense. If you can recall, Extreme Rules was in June, in the month of June for a number of years, when it was called One Night Stand, from 05 to 2009, I think, or One Night Stand was 05 to 08, but they also had Extreme Rules, the first inaugural event, in the month of June in 2009. So it wouldn't be the first time they've had an event like this in the month of June. So yeah, I completely agree. Payback should be in April or May or whenever they have the pay-per-view, because I know Extreme Rules this year, the first pay-per-view after WrestleMania 30 is in May. But yeah, Payback after WrestleMania and then Extreme Rules in June, I think would be phenomenal. Great idea. At an Innovator, I'm sorry, I completely botched that. Andre, of course, I know him from Twitter. His question was, do you have any interest in watching Ring of Honor? Personally, the thing is, it's not that I don't want to watch Ring of Honor. I've been suggested it numerous times. They've got great wrestling. The storylines are a little iffy sometimes. But same thing from a production standpoint. And that's not because that's not the reason why I don't watch it. The only reason why I don't watch it now is because I just don't have the time. I didn't watch NXT for a long time. I stopped watching, I think, in the summer of 2012 when they first went over to Full Sail University. And I couldn't watch during my senior year of high school. I just didn't have the time. And I knew how awesome it was. And I heard people raving about it. People were asking me to check it out. And I just couldn't because I just didn't have the time. And I finally got back into it last summer. And I found time on my schedule in my freshman year of college to watch it because it's just so great. And especially now it's more accessible on the network. And I don't have to wait for it to appear on Hulu Plus or go on a freaking foreign website or something to find it. That was always annoying. But yeah, I think Ring of Honor, I will have to check it out at some point. I made a vow to myself at the start of the year that I would check it out at some point this year. And maybe I'll check out an episode, especially with AJ Styles there. AJ Styles is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Definitely my favorite TNA wrestler of all time. He's not currently there, but my favorite wrestler to ever step foot in TNA. So that being said, though, I do have interest in watching Ring of Honor. It's just the fact that I just don't have the time. But I get out of school, my semester ends in my freshman year of college next month on May 19th. You know, Kane's Day, of course, Kane's Day of the year. So after I get done with school, then yeah, I mean after school, the semester ends next month. I'll probably check out an episode when I have more time for the summer. So yeah, I do have interest in it. I just don't have the time. And the final question comes from @TheAverageGrunt from Twitter. What's your dream SummerSlam card at this point? Really hard to say, of course, because we're just maybe 4 months out from SummerSlam, but SummerSlam is always awesome. I always highly anticipate it. It's always such a great event. Going back to maybe 2011, it's always been great. So I very much look forward to it. But in terms of what matches I want to see at the show, it's really up in the air because anything can change in wrestling on a day-to-day basis. Because tomorrow, John Cena could be injured and could not appear at the event because he could be out with an injury for the next year. So you can't really say. But at this point, long-term booking-wise, I'm not going to say like da-da-da-da-da for the tag team titles, da-da-da-da-da for the U.S. title. You know what I mean? Because a title can change like tonight on Raw or something, so you never really know. But long-term booking-wise, from what I've heard, on like what I've seen on dirt sheets and stuff, and you know, take those with a grain of salt. But based off what I've read and heard, this would be my dream card. So I would do Paige versus AJ for the Divas Championship. People were pissed that it's not happening in Extreme Rules, which I'm fine with, if only because Tamina Snuka is next best thing. That's okay. Paige and Tamina should be a very good matchup at Extreme Rules. They should add a step to that, but here's hoping they do, and they don't forget about it, even though it's Extreme Rules. Like last year at Extreme Rules, they had Jericho versus Fandango with no stip, even though it was Extreme Rules. That made no sense at all. But you keep AJ off TV for a while, because I know she requested for some time off. I don't think they would keep her off TV for 4 months, and I said the same thing with CM Punk last year, that they should keep him off until SummerSlam, and they brought him back in June, which was fine, because he had to build his feud with Lesnar, which is awesome. But AJ and Paige, I think, is a match. It's easily the most anticipated match in the Divas division in a long time. So I think AJ versus Paige, they're probably going to bring back AJ maybe at like the next fucking pay-per-view anyway. After Extreme Rules, they'll probably build to whatever the pay-per-view is after that. Money in the Bank, I think, in June this year. So they might do that. But even still, though, I don't really want to see. I guess you could do it at Payback in June, or I don't know, when the fuck is Payback this year? They changed the schedule so much, I have no idea when any of the events are this year. But you could do it at Money in the Bank, I guess, if you wanted to, but it's such a marquee matchup that they continue to build Paige up. This is what I would do. You continue to build Paige up for the next few months, and then you have AJ come back and do the feud, or do the match at SummerSlam, because it's going to be an awesome matchup, and I don't count the matchup the night after WrestleMania, because it only lasted a minute, so it doesn't really count. But so I would do that matchup at SummerSlam. Batista versus Bryan for the WWE Championship. I just read recently that Batista's taking time off after Extreme Rules, which is all fine and dandy, and then come back and do the feud with Bryan for the championship. Whether he wins or not, I don't know. If Batista wins, I wouldn't be pissed, but I really want to see Bryan versus Lesnar, and I'll get to that in a minute. But if Batista's going to be promoting his movie for the month of August, the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, it only makes sense to put him in the title picture. So Bryan versus Batista, which I think would be great. Triple H versus Roman Reigns has been rumored as well after they do the whole Evolution versus Shield thing. I know they might do that matchup in Money in the Bank after they do the Evolution versus Shield match at Extreme Rules. Then you start doing Triple H versus Roman Reigns going into Money in the Bank. But that's too big of a matchup to do there. And if you can have Roman Reigns go over clean or whatever, they should do that at SummerSlam. So I would do that matchup at SummerSlam if they can wait that long to do it. And I'm going to get a lot of weird responses from this one, but what I would do here with Brock Lesnar, because if we're not going to do Bryan and Brock Lesnar, and I think that should wait until Survivor Series, because that's going to be an awesome matchup. I wasn't a fan of it at one point in time, but now that Bryan's the hottest thing in the company, Brock Lesnar ended the streak, it's a completely different atmosphere from what it was a month or two ago. So that being said, though, what I would do with Brock Lesnar is that you give him the championship maybe around the time of Survivor Series, and then you start building him up as a threat, and you do Brock Lesnar versus whoever else at WrestleMania 31, Cesaro, Roman Reigns, and then you have them beat Brock Lesnar, suffer his first loss in the last since WrestleMania 29. So I think that'd be great. But regardless, in the time being, he should not lose a match. So if he's going to wrestle a match at SummerSlam, he should win. But this is a feud that I've been wanting to see for a number of years now, since Brock Lesnar first came back. But Sheamus versus Brock Lesnar, I think, would be a kick-ass match. And I know a lot of people hate Sheamus and his face character and all that bullshit, and I do too, but he's such a great wrestler. And when he's fired up, when he's aggressive, and when he's downright serious in the ring, his matches are phenomenal. His feuds are great. And I know he incorporates all the Irish bullshit, and if he ever was to feud with Brock Lesnar, he can't cut that corny bullshit. So, like, when Cena feuded with Brock Lesnar, he didn't treat him like a joke. Sheamus would have to treat him like a threat, too. So that matchup could be great. You do that matchup at SummerSlam, it's awesome. So you have Brock Lesnar go over, of course, because like I said, he shouldn't be losing a match until WrestleMania 31, in my opinion, if he's going to go in as champion. But that being said, though, those are my 4 matches for SummerSlam. I couldn't really come up with much else. But Triple H versus Roman Reigns, Batista versus Daniel Bryan, Sheamus versus Brock Lesnar, and Paige versus AJ for the Divas Championship. Sting versus Undertaker maybe, but some people, would rather save that for WrestleMania 31, and I think that is the way to go if they are indeed going to do that matchup. And Sting is all but confirmed in WWE. I'll see it. I'll believe it when I see it. I don't believe all the internet rumors with him being sent a contract and not signing it, not giving it back yet. I don't know. So we'll just have to wait and see. But that's a matchup you save until next year's WrestleMania. So without further ado, folks, that does it for today's hashtag AskJSM video. Thank you for sending in the questions. Like I said before, this had to be the best batch of questions I've ever gotten for this video series, so I appreciate it. Thanks for sending in the questions. If you want to send in a question, make sure to like my official Facebook page at @GrahamJSMMatthews. Leave a comment on the wall or whatever else. I ask the question. I ask people for their questions on Sunday night usually, so you can ask it then. And also on Twitter, send me a tweet at WrestleRant on the Twitter with the hashtag AskGSM, and you can get your video. You can get your question in next week's video. Or you can even just simply leave a comment in the comment section below, and I will include your question into next week's video. I always appreciate it. So make sure to subscribe as well, like, comment, all that great stuff. And I'll be back a little later in the week with some more videos and whatnot. So thanks for watching, guys. This is GSM, signing out for next week, guys.